Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Straight Talk for the Soul series. I'm Carrie Murphy, your host and creator of this global broadcasting community. Thank you so much for the gift of your time and your presence today. We invite you to subscribe for this series for free if you haven't already at straighttalkforthesoul.com. You can also find us now on iTunes and Facebook, of course, and YouTube. And we ask you to please spread the word to anyone you feel would resonate with this information. There are a lot of beautiful souls out there who have come to assist with raising consciousness here on planet Earth. And if you're here today, I know that you are one of those souls, but there are many out there who might feel different or isolated or just need some support and a sense of community. So let's invite them in so we can all assist one another on our journeys here. Because from my perspective, and I've been writing and speaking to audiences about this and the soul for over 20 years now, I believe our souls have stories. They're universal and galactic stories of who we are, where we've been, what we're here to do on this planet at this time. And this show is really dedicated to supporting all of us in awakening to the expansive nature of who we are so that we can ignite the light of love, not only in our hearts, but in our lives. And not only for our personal evolution, but for the evolution of our species. So, I'm really, really grateful that you're here today. We're here to remind each other of the power of love and community, and your presence here is really, really honored. And today I'm very excited because my co-creative partner is Jean Slatter. We're going to learn how to hire from the heavens. I love that. If you've been working way too hard, getting limited results, if you're wondering why you're struggling to make things happen, if you feel overwhelmed or bogged down by details or deadlines, if you feel totally wiped out sometimes, or even, feel like you're at the breaking point, which that can happen. It's time to realize that you have help. And Jean stumbled upon a power beyond her wildest dreams, more fantastic than the law of attraction, and it is ridiculously easy to use. You can use this power anywhere and at any time, whether you need help with your business, your relationships, or your personal life. There is an unseen workforce that you just have to know about, and we're going to talk about that on the show today. We're going to access a whole new universe of power and discover how easy it is to hire the heavens and employ a spiritual workforce as your personal and business power team. So we're going to talk about all kinds of things related to that, about really, if you've never been a believer that you can connect with the divine, we're going to show you how. Jean's going to give us her expertise, and she's so wonderful at this. So we are going to take some callers later. So press *2 to raise your hand if you've called in by phone. And if you joined us by computer, you can enter in your questions and comments in the webcast comment box. And so let us know that you want to connect with us, and we'll have some fun with that later. And now I'm excited to welcome Jean. She's never been to this show before, so please assist me in extending waves and waves of love and light and appreciation to Jean as I welcome her to the show. So Jean, welcome.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I am excited to be here, too.
Yeah, I love your energy. I know we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time, Jean. So for those who may be new to you, and I know a lot of people have followed your work probably for years, but if someone is new to you, let's do a little background here. Tell us a little bit about your journey that kind of led you to where you're at now.
Okay.
I know that's a big question. I'm kind of like, where's she going to go with this?
Yeah, it's like, I go, oh my gosh, okay, we're going to just jump right in here.
Yeah, well, I want them to know you. Yeah.
Okay, so in the past 30 years, 28 years, I'm trying to be accurate here. In the past 28 years, I've been a spiritual teacher, but who knew? Who knew that was ever going to happen? It certainly was not on my radar. Prior to that, what I did is install mainframe computers.
Oh, wow.
Okay, And I loved working with computers because they were so predictable, right? You know, and it's on and off, bits and bytes, and I was a very logical person. Spock might have been my father. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I just was like, really. I like the left brain. That's where I was. And being a spiritual teacher and then really tapping into intuition and the right brain was not even on the radar. As a matter of fact, if we go back even further, I spent the first 28 years of my life in growing up in a very strict religion that I consider a cult. And the reason that I consider it a cult is because they had such strong mind control over us by telling us we were chosen, right? So when you're told that you're chosen, you kind of block out any kind of logic and reason, and you want to just follow by blind faith whatever they say so that you stay in the club, so to speak. And I left that church when I was 19 after, for the first time, doing something so outrageous. I thought on my own. I used my own brain to ask questions about the doctrine and the dogma that was being presented to me. And when I did that, I was stunned to find out that it didn't make any sense. And when I left that church, it was like the rug was pulled out from underneath me, and everything that I thought about the world and the way that it worked and the way that the universe worked, I began to view it all as complete BS. And I threw anything to do with spirituality, religion, God, angels, out the door. I wanted nothing to do with it. So after that, the next 20 years of my life were all about complete avoidance of anything spiritual, wanting nothing to do with it. And if I ran across somebody that started to talk about something spiritual, I went the other way. So that's why I say, you know, here I am, a spiritual teacher, like, who knew that would happen?
Right. So something must have happened. Was there what was it? What was the catalyst that led you into it?
Yes, I started having the door open when I read Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb. Did you ever read that, Carrie?
I did, yes. I think I read all of her books back then, yes.
Yes, and so we are talking, you know, maybe 28 years ago, 30 years ago, and that started to open the door for me. Do you remember the moment in her book where she's with her mentor, Kevin Ryerson, and he is with her at the ocean telling her to shout as loud as she could, I am God. I remember reading that 28 some years ago and feeling shaky inside, because even though I had left my religion many years prior, there were still remnants of that fear within me that I could do something that would bring the wrath of the heavens down on me, right? And for Shirley MacLaine to do that, that felt borderlining of blasphemy. And so I remember reading that and thinking, you can't say that. No, don't do
Be
that.
careful,
you can't say that. Exactly. But it did begin to open up a door, and it was the first thing that I read that I actually began to think about and resonate with after having wanted nothing to do with religion for so many years. Well, religion and spirituality. Well, then, what my pivotal moment was that turned everything around and changed my life came as I was working in my business as a traditional naturopath. You see, after I quit my job working for the company to install mainframe computers, it was the reason I quit is because of having children. And I wanted to have a job that I could do from the home or part-time while being available for my kids. So I got into naturopathy, took a several-year course and learned a lot about naturopathy. And I liked the idea of naturopathy because it just, I had a machine that was also a computer. It's called an electroacupuncture device. And this one, it appealed to me because I understood computers. And I understood that if it's coming from a computer, it's pretty black and white, and I liked that idea. Again, I'm wanting to work only from the left brain. And one day I was working with a particular client, and we were doing a modality called an allergy clearing, where we remove the resistance that the body might have to another substance. And I had learned how to use a pendulum and dowse. Now, somebody might ask, well, that's pretty bizarre. That seems kind of out there. But I never thought of dowsing that way because we have been doing it for centuries and centuries and centuries to find water. So to me, dowsing didn't fit into the category of spirituality or even right brain thinking. It was just something that humans were capable of doing. That's how my mind worked about it.
It was logical.
Yes. So I'm working with this particular client, and through my pendulum, or many practitioners use muscle testing, same kind of thing. But the body said it wanted to do an allergy clearing for 5 neurotransmitters. Now, Carrie, at the time, I didn't know a lot about neurotransmitters. The body said I had to name all 5. I was able to come up with 4. And they were serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, some of the ones that are real common. But I could not think of what the 5th neurotransmitter might be. So I said to my client, we need to reschedule. I need time to research what this other neurotransmitter might be that your body wants to clear. Could we set a time and reschedule? And then my client, who was a layperson, and Carrie, you just got to picture this. These are the words that came out of her mouth, like out of the blue. She says to me, well, is histamine a neurotransmitter? And certainly that would have been the first thing you'd say, right? It's like, well, who says that? Right. And I looked at her and I said, no, histamine isn't a neurotransmitter. Histamine is that stuff that your sinuses produce when you have an allergic reaction. That's why you take an antihistamine, but it's not a neurotransmitter. And then in the next moment, for whatever reason, I turn around and I pull a book off my shelf that I had purchased 1 year prior but had never opened. Well, I pull the book off the shelf, and it falls open to a page where histamine's in the title. And that in and of itself, that was pretty amazing. But then it's as if something took my eyeballs and pointed them at a line buried in the paragraph. I didn't see anything else on the page. I only saw this one line, and it said, histamine is also thought to be a neurotransmitter. That was my moment. That was my moment when the hair stood up on the back of my neck, because I realized you couldn't explain that with coincidence. Right. Something had to whisper it to my client, and they say, blurt that out, like how strange of a thing to say. And then when I say, no, that's not it, something makes me turn around, pull a book off the shelf, open the page, take my eyes and say, oh, yes, it is.
Right. There's something bigger going on here. Right.
Exactly. And quite frankly, Carrie, I was a little freaked out, because I knew the significance of what had just happened. There was just, you couldn't explain it with coincidence. There was an orchestration that happened. There was something beyond that was involved and guiding us. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to do this clearing. I want her to get her out the door so I can sit and think about this. Right. Like I had to figure out I had to have some reference, some way of figuring out what just happened. Well, at the time, I'd heard about psychic surgery, and I think even in Out on a Limb, Shirley MacLaine talked about things like that, or that phenomenon. And I'd heard of John of God in, I think it's Brazil or Peru, one of the two.
Brazil.
Okay. And so, you know, the premise behind that is that there are these unseen helpers that have certain skills that are working through somebody on the physical level. So the thought occurred to me, Carrie, what if I have a spiritual physician advising me and available to me as I'm working with my clients in my naturopathic business? What if I had that? Wouldn't that be amazing? So I began to call on this spiritual physician and ask for help with my clients. So when I would go to work, I would say, okay, here's who we have coming in today. They've got blood sugar issues, or this person has heart trouble, or this person has arthritis. Can you assist me and tell me what they need to remedy the situation? Well, extraordinary things began to happen as I tuned into this spiritual physician. You know, things would come to my mouth that that I couldn't know about, like what's going on emotionally in their personal situation, or an herbal remedy would come up, or a change in their diet, or something along those lines. Right. And so I was astounded how I was getting help from this spiritual physician. Well, then this was working so well that I thought, okay, since I'm getting help from this spiritual physician, maybe there is other experts that I can bring in to help me with my business, because I need a spiritual marketer, and I need a spiritual time manager, and I need a spiritual financial consultant,
I need a whole team.
Secretary. I need a whole team. So I imagined hiring an entire staff from the heavens. And I'm telling you, Carrie, it worked so well. I'll fast forward. For the next 10 years that I had my office, I was able to work part-time, support the entire family while my husband stayed home with our 4 kids. And I never had to hire anyone on the physical level, because it was all taken care of for me on the spiritual level.
Wow. This stuff works. Yes. Well, you proved it to yourself. I love the way that you describe it, though. You know, the helpers and the team and because you didn't want to go too woo-woo, or like, it sounds like you weren't prepared to call it spiritual yet, but you knew that there were divine helpers, I guess. So when did you realize, okay, this is more than... When did you really believe that there was this infinite world of universal divine helpers available, that it was limitless?
Oh my gosh, that is a perfect question. So here's the thing. In the beginning, this was working for me so well, and I assumed, because of my religious background, that the only reason that it was working was because I was doing a good thing. So since I was doing a good thing, the universe was responding and assisting me. And this is a really important point, because it is so prevalent among all of us, really. And so here's the thing. The church that I grew up in, God was very much up somewhere on a throne, who knows where, but definitely not accessible. When you prayed to God, you had to have a big ticket item. You either had to wait till you were in a time of crisis, or you could pray for somebody else who was in crisis, or you could pray for world peace. That was always a sure bet. But
interrupt the big guy. Right.
Yeah, you're not going to bother the big guy to just help you find the perfect hair color. I mean, you just wouldn't do that, right? So you were very careful about how you phrased your prayers and what you prayed for. And God and the entire spiritual realm was very much at arm's length. What I became aware of is that God and the entire spiritual realm never wanted to be separate from us in the first place and loves being involved in our everyday life. So, and I don't even feel that they're separate from us one bit anymore, but that's how I was thinking about it. That's my realization back a number of years ago. And it came about because I decided to do something very audacious, and I asked for something that was purely selfish. You see, the only thing I was bothering the spiritual realm for, in the beginning, the only thing I ever, quote unquote, bothered the spiritual realm for was in my business, and I was helping people, and I was doing a good thing. So my justification was, that's why they're willing to help, is because I am doing a good thing. But then one day I thought, I wonder if I can ask for help for something that's just for me. Just for me. I mean, could that even be possible? The first thing that I did, Carrie, is I hired a spiritual wardrobe consultant. You see,
I love it.
I was one of those people who just hated to shop because I could never find what I wanted. It was never the right price, not the right color, didn't fit right, and so I would wear my clothes for years before I would venture out into the wilds of the mall to buy clothing, and then usually I would come home in utter frustration. Well, I thought, if the heavens can help me with my work, is it possible that I can get help with my wardrobe? So on the way to the mall, I hired a spiritual wardrobe consultant. I said, find me some new outfits at a good price. I bought 13 outfits that day for just over $200.
Never happened, right?
Never, but now it's a real problem because I always find stuff I like.
Right.
But so that was my first awareness that wow, I could actually get help for something that was just for me. Now, let me tell you, that puts such joy in my heart. It seems like a silly thing, but just to feel that, wow, I've got support that's just for me, that just makes me happy. How crazy and wonderful is that? So then, once I realized that, oh my gosh, I started hiring away from the heavens. Yes, I hired away from the heavens for everything that was going on in my life. When my husband and I would take the kids on a trip, we would hire a spiritual mechanic to keep the car running well. We would hire a spiritual tour guide to make sure that we stopped at all the wonderful sites along the way. We'd hire a spiritual connoisseur so that we'd stop at the best restaurants. And for sure, we'd hire a spiritual attitude adjuster to keep the kids happy.
Essential, right?
Yep. So I started to hire away for interior decorating, for organizing my closet, and there wasn't any place like putting on a party. Oh my gosh, every year we'd put on a Easter party where sometimes we'd have 85 people here. And the week before it was just chaos. And the kids would come to dread that because mom would be very stressed as she's getting ready for all that stuff. So then I thought, I'm going to hire a spiritual party organizer to have the best party ever and that everybody has a great time, and especially the host, me and my husband, and to do it with ease. Since that time, Easter has been a breeze. And it's like, wow.
You make this sound so fun, Jean. I love it. Your attitude is contagious. I love it. I love it. Do you mind if I ask you a brief question?
Of course.
You may be about to share this, but did you develop a specific way of inviting these helpers in? Because it sounds like you developed some kind of technique that was working. And did you have to do it in a specific way, or was it just kind of like a laid back, like, hey, come and help, or was there a specific way that you did it?
Well, again, right on cue, Carrie. You must be intuiting the best questions here. So here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. You simply imagine that the spiritual world is every bit as complex as our own physical dimension, and that every talent, ability, skill, and personality trait that exists here on the personal plane exists in the spiritual world. And perhaps it has to exist there first before it can ever be here on the physical plane. And even jobs and talents that you have never heard of before, like can you imagine doing a search on the internet for an attitude adjuster? So even if you have never heard of that kind of job description, on the physical level, you can be sure that it does exist in the spiritual world. So the next time that you're doing anything, think heavens first. Think about if you had no restriction of time, no restriction of money, no restriction of the help that you could bring in. Imagine who you would want to help you with whatever project you've got. So if you're remodeling your house, certainly you're going to think about that you'll need a carpenter, you'll need an architect, you'll need somebody at the building department, you'll need somebody that is an interior decorator, a design specialist. Imagine that you don't have any restriction of money, and you would bring in those specialists to help you with your project. Now think heavens first and hire them all on the spiritual level. When you do that, 3 extraordinary things can happen. The first thing that can happen is that you will be inspired with the information that you need. And so whatever it is that you're asking for, like you've got a problem with your computer and you want to know, how do I fix this? You hire a spiritual computer specialist to inspire you with what to do. Mm-hmm. And then as you're sitting there, somehow you just know, oh, this is where I go and this is what I do. And I've had that happen so many times where I have a question about something. I hire the specialist and then somehow I know what to do. So the information can come through you. The second thing that can happen when you hire from the heavens is that the heavens will bring to your doorstep the embodiment of the exact spiritual hire that you've asked for. When I got the message from my committee, my committee that I needed to write a book about hiring the heavens and how it was working for me, I immediately put together a spiritual book writing committee, and I said, listen, you've got to help me I've never written before. I don't know what to do. You're going to have to help me figure out how to develop these ideas. It's really such a simple concept. Can this really be a book? You know? Mm-hmm. And as soon as I put my committee together, I came home one day and there's a phone call or message on my recorder from a complete stranger. She said, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a developmental editor, and I was just wondering if you had any book projects you're working on.
I love it.
I knew she was heaven sent, right? So I started working with her. It was amazing. She was just so stellar. Got the book to a place where now I just needed someone to go through the manuscript with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed. So I asked my spiritual book writing committee again. I said, okay, what do we do now? Bring me somebody that can help. Well, the very next day, I have a brand new client that had very tiny handwriting. When handwriting is tiny, that's a tip-off to me that they're very detail-oriented. So I asked them, well, what do you do for work? And she said, well, I'm a copy editor. And I said, well, what's a copy editor? And she says, well, we go through manuscripts and we make sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed.
Of course.
So,
of course you do
said,
that.
well, yeah, so I said, you're supposed to work for me. So she did, and she was amazing too. And so that's exactly how it will happen when you hire from the heavens. The heavens will bring to your doorstep the embodiment of that specialist. Wow. Okay, I got to tell you this story, though, because this is just so amazing. Just love
you have me smiling over here. Bring on the stories. I love them. I love hearing you talk.
When the book, initially, my book writing committee said I was going to self-publish it, and then it would be picked up by a publishing house. And after about a year of it being self-published, I got the tap on the shoulder from my book writing committee, and they said, okay, it's time for it to be submitted to a publishing house. And I said, well, which publishing house should I go with? And they sent me to the book, The Power of Now, and said, go with this publishing house, which is New World Library. And so I sent them my book with a little note that said, you guys are the ones. Well, I didn't know that's not what you're supposed to do.
I have chosen you, and yes, let's do it.
Yeah. I didn't know that's what you're supposed to do is to go to some very expensive seminars to learn how to publish a book, get your press kit together, get your your proposal written. Pardon me?
Hire an agent to
hire an agent.
You.
Oh yeah,
to be, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need all that, and you're going to end up submitting to 30 different publishing houses, and most likely get turned down by them all, and then have to go to the next 30 and all that. Well, I didn't know any of that. I just sent them the book and a little note said, "You guys are the ones," and they published the book.
That is so great.
But here's the story that I'm so excited to tell you. Just before the book came out, and it was still being sold on my website in a self-published form, there was somebody that purchased it and sent me an email and said, I love your book, but you really need to get it with a major publishing house. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I have. It's been picked up by New World Library. This person wrote back and said, well, that's great because that's the publishing house I was going to suggest. And their office is only 10 minutes from my house. And if you're ever in the area, I would love it if you'd connect with me ahead of time. I have some things I'm working on that I think you'd be interested in. So I filed that away and didn't think about it for the next 6 months. Then there was an invitation from the owner of New World Library for a seminar that was being put on in the area, and I signed up. And as I was going there, I kind of I remembered about that email, and I thought, oh, should I connect with them? And I immediately heard back, no, you'll meet them when you need to. So, okay, so I went to the seminar. It was packed, about 700 people, standing room only. Everybody's scrambling to find a seat. I had a seat up at the front third, halfway through the aisle. There was one seat open next to me. And this guy started making his way through the aisle and said, is that seat open? And I said, sure. And I looked up and saw his name tag, and it was him. And he saw my name tag, and we both put our hands in our head like, wow, knowing that, again, that was orchestrated.
Absolutely. Wow.
I was so curious to know why it had been orchestrated. And on the second day of the seminar, I found out. He said to me, Jean, when you get your books from New World Library. I would love it if you would give me a couple extra books, because I have two very good friends that I would like to give them to. I said, sure. Who are your friends? Kevin Ryerson and Shirley MacLaine.
Oh, wow. I love your stories. Could they get any better? Oh, wow.
Yes, it does get better. It does get better, because I said there are three things that can happen. The first thing is you're inspired with the information. The second thing is that the heavens brings to your doorstep the physical embodiment of the specialist. But the third thing that can happen, which will just blow your mind, is a flat-out miracle. And I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. The heavens can show up in miraculous ways that will just blow your socks off. And speaking of socks, it makes me think about a story. You're going to love this too. So, this happened, let's see. I'll start with a story that is in my book and then tell you a story that isn't, that has to do with socks.
Okay.
I was talking to one of my girlfriends, telling her about how Hiring the Heavens works. And she called me up just 2 days later, and she said, oh, my gosh, Jean, we have to have lunch. So we did, and she told me the most amazing story. She said she had been out in her yard pruning for hours, and when she came in the house, she was taking a drink of water, and her daughter noticed that an irregular shaped pearl in a ring that her husband had given her many years ago was missing. You can imagine her heart just sank, because there's no way she could have found a tiny little pearl out in this huge yard. She knew it was gone. But for some reason, she remembered what we talked about how you can hire specialists from the spiritual realm. So she said, I'm hiring a spiritual jewelry sleuth. She said, find my pearl and bring it to me. Just an hour later, she is sitting on the bed talking to her kids, and the dog jumped up on the bed. Her son said, Mommy, Callie's playing with something in her mouth. And she said, drop it, Callie. And the dog dropped the pearl right in front of her hand. Yes. So here's the thing, Carrie. Since I've told that story so many times, the spiritual phone number for this spiritual jewelry sleuth has gotten out, and she is the best in the universe. And she is just amazing at bringing back jewelry, lost jewelry. And I have so many stories. But one of them that just cracked me up was a review on Amazon. And what she said is that her mother's opal ring that had been promised to her since she was a little girl was lost for 3 years. Her mom had passed away 3 years prior, and that was one of the things that the lady wanted to find was that opal ring, because it had been promised to her and reminded her of her mom. Mm-hmm. And so they looked everywhere to find it in her mom's house, couldn't find it. 3 years goes by. It's gone. But then she read the book. Mm-hmm. And she hired the spiritual jewelry sleuth to find her mother's opal ring and to bring it to her. Not long afterwards, she's doing her laundry, and she's making socks. And one of the socks has a knot in it. She unties the knot and feels something inside and reaches her hand in and pulls out her mother's opal ring. Are we getting goosebumps?
Gosh. Wow. But I have to ask, so is there a specific way that works? You ask in a specific way?
Okay. And the answer is no. I do everything from, ask in singing voice. The point is just to ask. And there's, so what this gets into is what I was alluding to earlier, how when it was working in the beginning, I thought that the only reason it was working was because I was doing a good thing. And so I had these old ideas that I had to deserve it. Mm-hmm. Now, when I wrote the book, I even thought maybe this was working by the law of attraction. And it was my developmental editor that introduced me to some of Esther Hicks's recordings. And I thought maybe that's how things were working. But afterwards, after the book was published, I sat down with my committee one day and I said, okay, can you explain how this happens? And they said, this is not working by the law of attraction. And here's why. Because law of attraction is still all about you earning it. It's about the energy you put out, you get back, right? No exception. The energy you put out is what you get back. So if you're not getting back what you're asking for, you have to take a look at what is the vibration I'm putting out, And so as time goes on, I saw in my own life and in my clients' lives, they began to become hyper-vigilant about fixing themselves, so that they can get the vibration right. Right. Maybe I need to state it in the present tense. Maybe I don't have enough gratitude. Maybe I need to fix my mother issues. Maybe I've got some karma going here. Maybe I've got this, And it's like, why isn't this working? And so law of attraction is very much a linear equation. 1 + 1 is going to equal 2 every time. But what guidance told me is, wait a minute. The universe also operates on grace, where 1 + 1 can equal, anything you want it to be. That
millions.
Yes, that miracles can happen. That it's not dependent on you at all. That there's an orchestration that's going on that is so beyond you. That you're playing a role, yes, but there's just so much more going on. And how about if we could tap into that? How about if we could tap into that power? The power that created the universe in the first place. Do you think the power that created the universe was operating on the law of attraction? No, the power that created it was operating on the law of grace and creativity. So this is where guidance says this works. And so from that, here's the point. You cannot earn this. This is a gift to you because of who you are. It is a gift to you. There is nothing you can do to earn it. There's nothing you could do that would ever take it away. It's yours because you exist, like the air you breathe. Is there anything that you have to think to yourself, Carrie, I have to deserve this next breath of air because I got to make sure that I'm in an attitude of gratitude. Otherwise, I can't breathe, right?
I love that you're saying that, because then it takes away the perfectionist aspect of like, oh, I didn't say it enthusiastically enough, or my signal wasn't quite where it needed to be. So I love you're saying that. So that's the law of grace that you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. And so when it comes to how do we do this, how do we ask, the answer is however you want to. However you want to, because you can't get it wrong.
You can't get it wrong.
There's no one right way of doing it, and you can't get it wrong.
And there's no limit to the number of helpers in your committee, right? And
right.
You can just keep expanding that committee. And, when I heard you say something a minute ago about you sat down to communicate or talk with your committee, it sounds like you've created and developed quite a committee, a divine committee of helpers. Have those helpers changed, or do you have specific ones that have been guiding and assisting you this whole time?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I have my regular committee, and you know that I would have staff meetings every day. I still have staff meetings every day.
I love that.
Yeah, I
Oh,
still
wow.
have staff meetings. I begin my day with a staff meeting. And, you know, I'll tell you a story about a real estate agent. And she had the reputation of being able to find the exact right house for the exact right buyer. Somehow she had that magic. Well, she confessed to me what her magic was, is that she would hire a spiritual committee for each and every client that she had. And she would have staff meetings in her living room. And what she would do is put the chairs around in a circle as she would begin her staff meeting. These empty chairs would be sitting there as she'd be talking to her heavenly staff, explaining what she wanted. Well, the kids would all walk by and roll their eyes, but she said the dogs knew. The dogs would come and sit by the chairs. Is that wild?
It is. It is. And in those staff meetings, you can wear whatever you want, huh? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So, and
I love it.
I'll tell you one more story too. So how does this work? Just use your imagination. Ask however you want. I just could go on and on and on with stories that just will blow your mind. But here's one that I thought you'll just love. A friend of mine called me up. She had been really struggling with a home. First of all, she was going through a bankruptcy, and she was trying to keep her home out of foreclosure. And for almost a year, she had been working with a loan modification specialist to try to get the home loan modified so she could keep it and keep her home. So she called me up out of desperation because they had just put a foreclosure sign out on her lawn. She said, Jean, you have to hire the heavens for me. And I said, well, you can do this. And she says, I know, but I'm just too upset. Help me. I said, okay.
You're the expert at this, Jean. Help me.
So I went to her office, and we sat down. Now, here's how I do it. I just use my imagination. Oftentimes, I'll create in my mind's eye a boardroom, and I'll begin to invite in different specialists to come sit around the table to give advice. So I said to my friend, we need, who do we need to hire? We need a spiritual loan specialist, a loan modification specialist, a spiritual real estate specialist, a spiritual banker. You know, who else do we need? A foreclosure specialist, a bankruptcy specialist. Just let's bring in all the specialists. So we did that, and I imagined seeing in this boardroom everybody kind of coming in and sitting down and starting to populate the chairs. And I was just about ready to begin the meeting when the door opened, and in walked a very impressive-looking gentleman in a three-piece suit and a top hat, and behind him were two other gentlemen in three-piece suits and top hats. And the gentleman in front came around the table and sat at the head and said, we will make them an offer they can't refuse. I said to my friend, oh my gosh, we've got the mob. I said, you needed clout. You needed clout to make this happen. We've got the mob. Do you know within days she had her loan modification at the lowest rate the agent she had been working with had seen? It was 2-point-something%. Something crazy. She just said, I don't know how you got this.
My goodness. There are no limits. There are no limits. And I love your enthusiasm for this because clearly you have been practicing this for some time. And do you have like a happy helper? Because your happiness is like off the charts. You know?
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I do want to say this. Here's the thing about this. You know, with the law of attraction, and I believe in the law of attraction. I love the law of attraction. I practice the law of attraction. But with the law of attraction, you have to raise your vibration, and one of the quickest ways to do that is to be in gratitude, right? Mm-hmm. So you conjure up the gratitude first to raise your vibration. This is so different because when you work with hiring the heavens, I am telling you, when you witness how your life begins to be orchestrated, gratitude is a natural byproduct. Mm-hmm. It is not something you have to conjure up. You are there.
Right. You just feel that way because things work out. And then you're grateful. Right.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. Well, I can definitely feel it from the energy that you're putting out. The joy and I think it amplifies a sense of empowerment in your life because you realize how much creative power and support that you have in any area of life. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we can feel in this journey is empowered. So
right.
Definitely sense that from you.
One of the things that trips us up, and it certainly did for me in the beginning, is that we feel like we have to justify it. We feel like we have to rationalize and justify it, getting help from this immense power. I want everybody listening to just throw that idea out the window. It's not true. You do not have to justify asking for help. So when people would come to me, they say, oh, I've got this really good project, so I was thinking about hiring a heaven for this and this and this. I go, well, you can hire the heavens even if it isn't a good project. You know?
You don't need backup that it's worthy of assistance, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing is that'll trip you up. You'll think, oh, okay, I'm going to wait and hire the heavens when I've got something really good.
No, anything we desire is valid. It's valid. It's real. It's worthy. You are worthy at all times. Jean, we have so many people who've written in, and we have so many hands up. And I know we had mentioned you can help people, and a lot of people have already written in asking for help with you guiding them on, what kind of spiritual helper they can ask for or whatever, some clarity on that. And so I want to do that, but I want to highlight before we go to these questions, you did create an offer that is the Hiring the Heavens. It's an exclusive package where people can learn how to do this on their own time and kind of get good at this and really refine their ability to partner with spirit in this way. And this is a training. It's a video course. Is that right?
It is, and you can also download it as an MP3. So however it works for you, if you want to listen to it in your car, just download it as an MP3. Or if you prefer, watch it as a video. There's just some wonderful PowerPoints and slides that really emphasize and help to visually sink this in.
Yes. I love that. And then you also included there are a couple of bonuses here. There's a Companion Workbook added in. There's the Hiring the Heavens and your Financial Workforce MP3 download. And that really helps people, with the heavens helping them in their business, which I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that too.
Yeah, may I tell you what the videos are about and what's in them?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
So the first video is Hiring the Heavens and Your Angelic Team. So the first video goes into depth, some of what we have talked about today, but really goes more into depth about it. And it helps you to get started. Like, that's the one thing I want from anybody listening to me and anybody watching the training video is that they are inspired to immediately put it to use, because then I feel like I've done my job, like where they can't, what I'm wanting is that at the end of it, they are just chomping at the bit. can't wait to begin to hire away from the heavens. That's where they're going to start seeing magic happen in their lives. So this video goes into depth about that and more understanding. Now, the second video is called Break Free of the Law of Attraction. This goes into much more of understanding how the law of grace works and the difference between the law of attraction and the law of grace, and how hiring the heavens, it's the quickest, easiest, and funnest way to begin to work with the law of grace. It will also explain how you're really under 3 primary laws of manifesting, not just the law of attraction, not just the law of grace, but also the law of consequences. And when you understand how all 3 laws are working simultaneously in every nanosecond of your life, you'll understand how it is that manifesting actually happens. So I think that'll just blow your mind as you start learning about the 3 primary laws of manifesting. The third video is hired by the heavens, because you see it's a 2-way street. Not only can you hire from the heavens, but the heavens actually wants to hire you, because you are so unique and your light is so unique, and there is something that you are uniquely qualified to do. And the heavens knows that. The heavens sees you, and they want to hire you. So you're going to understand the big question, what is my purpose? When people ask that, one of the reasons it's so confusing is because my guidance said you're actually asking 4 different questions. It's not just one question. You're asking 4 different questions. So you'll learn about what those 4 different questions are. You'll learn about what's on your soul's resume, your gifts of spirit, how to negotiate your contract, and what your soul's mission is. So by the time you go through that third video, you'll understand what the heavens wants to hire you for.
And
that. Then fourth,
I think I said that like 12 times today. I must really love everything you're saying. I typically don't say that many times. Anyway. Please continue.
So then you'll also get the Hiring the Heavens Companion Workbook, and this is where you can keep track of all your committees that you bring together to help you with every aspect of your life. And it's a fun way for you if you are someone that loves writing. Some people aren't. I am half the time. I write half the time I don't. You know, I just, oftentimes when I'm driving down the road, I just hire on the fly from the spiritual temp agency. And that takes care of that, and I don't need to write anything down. But if I'm working on a larger project and I want to put a committee together, then this workbook gives you a place to write this down, be very organized in your thinking about the mission statement for this committee and the tasks that you want them to perform. And then lastly is that bonus you mentioned about hiring the heavens in your financial workforce, where you'll hear an audio recording where we went specifically into what do you do for financial support. And you're going to understand the 4 cornerstones of creation, which is like foundational for our experience here in this dimension, and how that works and how it's tied into your finances. So that's everything in this program, and the value is over, I think it's like over close to $400. I can't even remember, but it's $332. It's 62% off at $127.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. And for those of you who may be new, but most of you who join these calls, you know you can find that at straighttalkforthesoul.com/marketplace, and you'll see Jean's beautiful, radiant, smiling face, which completely matches what you're hearing today. And then it'll be in your replay emails later. And so, Jean, thank you for creating that. It looks like a lot of fun. Not only is it going to potentially change people's lives in a variety of ways, but it really gives them the power that makes, well, it's fun, first of all, but you realize how much power you have, and I mean authentic power, to create these committees, to that you have the right and the worthiness to create this host of of heavenly helpers and this grand committee. And people love you. I was glancing in the webcast as you were speaking about the offer, and people just love you. So many people who are new to you and many who have worked with you who are singing your praises. So
oh, wonderful.
yes. Yes. And okay, so I want to take some callers. Again, there's so many hands up, but press star 2 if you want to be considered for that. And I'm going to ask one from the webcast right off because I think a lot of people can relate to this one. Dear Carrie and Jean, this is from Vancouver. I'd love to get some clarity on my manifestation of more money. Am I blocking it in some way? I feel up and down the more I try to manifest. What am I doing wrong? Please help. From Dada, D-A-D-A. I don't know if they're anyways, from Vancouver. So for someone who wants support with the manifestation of money or more abundance in their lives, what would you say to that?
Boy, that's a loaded question. And here's why I'm just like laughing a little bit and why I think it's a loaded question is because every single one of our journeys is here on purpose, for a purpose, and is entirely unique. That is one of the things that as I became trained by my spiritual committee to understand what this journey is, that became loud and clear. So remember, the first 20 years of my life, I was raised in a cult where I didn't have to think. In fact, I was told not to think, right? You just totally follow the dogma, don't think, otherwise you run the risk of losing your position. So the next 20 years, I wanted nothing to do with spirituality. But when I had my pivotal point, then, and I realized that I actually have specialists to talk to in the other dimension, and I wasn't even using the word angels. I'm comfortable with the word angels now, but back then I certainly wasn't even comfortable with that word. But I put a committee together that I eventually ended up calling my Creative Mystic Committee because I wanted to ask all the big mystic questions. Who am I? How did I get here? What's this all about? Does any of it matter? You know, does my life even matter? I wanted to ask all the big questions, and I journaled for 3 years in conversation with my Creative Mystic Committee as they explained answers to these questions. And during that time, they asked me not to read any books about the subject because they said, we want you to hear it from us. Afterwards, you can read as many books as you like, but right now, we want you to hear it from us. So one of the things that becomes apparent when you are, I know I'm going off and answering this in a long way, but I think it is just so important. There's a magic that happens as you hire the heavens. Very quietly, very subtly, in the background, you begin to become aware of who you are. Because as you start seeing these amazing things happen, and you clearly see that the universe is interested in you and is attending to your requests, it begs the question, who am I? That I would be that important that the heavens wants to answer my requests. You know, how is that possible? How is that possible that I'm important in that way? It begs that question, and it's like, why is it that I don't have to earn this? Why is it that even to find the perfect hair color, I get help? How is that possible? When those questions begin happening in the back of your mind, very quietly you begin to recognize that who you really are is God energy. And as such, it makes total sense that the entire celestial realm is there to serve you. Remember when Shirley MacLaine was standing at the ocean saying, I am God, and I thought that was blasphemy? Now I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the truth. And once you realize that, and you realize that, of course, the entire spiritual realm is here to serve you, then a transformation begins to happen. Well, then the next thing happens, Carrie. Once you start getting a glimpse of that and who you really are, then you start very quietly in the back of your mind going, then what am I doing here? Mm-hmm. What am I doing here? If I'm God, then what am I doing here?
That's a big question on this planet.
Yes.
I'm sure many of us, if not everyone on this show has asked. What's the answer that you come up with?
So who you are, I promise I'm getting to the answer to the question about the money. But this is like background information that's fundamental to understanding almost any question that probably the listeners and the writers have. So who are you and what are you doing here? Well, my guidance said we are creators. Now, what are we creators of? We are creators of the only thing that's real. So let me tell you what that is. One day I was doing a meditation where I was, it's a very common meditation that you've probably done many times yourself or read many times, where you drop beautiful green energy from the earth and you bring down beautiful violet energy from the heavens and you have it commingle within you and then have it burst out throughout your entire body and beyond. And I've done it many times and I've always been able to just, oh man, it feels so good. Well, this one particular morning as I'm trying to do it, nothing is happening, Carrie. It's like curiously blank. Nothing. I can't see the color green. I can't feel the vibration. I can't feel and see any light. So I'm trying to bring it up from the earth. I'm trying to bring it down from the heavens. It's nothing. It is like blank and silent. And I'm getting so frustrated. Like, come on, I've done this many times. How come I can't feel this? And I try harder and harder, and I'm still frustrated. And then I hear a little chuckle from my committee. And they said, well, you see, the problem is there is no such thing as light. There is no such thing as energy. And I go, excuse me? Everything is light and energy. And they said, no, everything is an illusion, including light and energy. I just was like, what? And I'm in the habit always of arguing with my committees whenever they're telling me something I'm not ready to hear. Mm-hmm. And I go, excuse me, I've read about this and I know everything is energy. And I go, so you're going to have to explain to me why there's no such thing as light and energy. And they said, well, think about it this way. When you're dreaming at night, and it feels like a really real dream, and you're sitting down with a friend, and you're in a park, and you're looking over some beautiful land, and you feel a nice breeze on your face, and you're laughing with your friend, and maybe you're eating something in this dream. Is any of that real? I go, well, no, that's just a thought and consciousness. And they said, well, exactly. It's all an illusion. It's just a thought in consciousness. And what they said is that we are all in the dream world of God, the universe. Mm-hmm. We're all in the dream world. It's all an illusion. I go, okay. I think I can wrap my mind around that. Well, then is anything real? And they said, yes, one thing, experience. It's the only thing that's real. When you die and leave this planet, what's the only thing you take with you? Your experience, period. Mm-hmm. So that's what my guidance says we are creators of. We are creators of the only thing that's real, experience. Why? Well, if you look up the definition of experience, one of the definitions is practical knowledge derived through direct participation. In other words, you lived it. You lived it. It's one thing to read about an experience in a book, but it's an entirely different thing to live it. That's what we're doing here. We are creators of an experience to live it. Why? So that we can know the truth of that. So we have something in our mind as a soul. We say to ourselves, I wonder what it feels like to be in love. I don't know, but I'm going to live it. I'm going to create the experience and live it. So I will have direct knowledge from that experience so that I don't have to just read about it. I can actually live it. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing here. That's who we are. Each and every one of us is here on purpose, for a purpose of discovering the truth of something. So whatever experience we're going through, one of the biggest, most helpful questions you could possibly ask yourself is, what am I trying to know the truth of? Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the person asking about the money. Mm-hmm. This person says, I seem to be blocking myself. You know, could you read it again?
Dear Carrie and Jean, I would love to get some clarity on my manifestation of more money. Am I blocking it in some way? I feel that I am up and down the more I try to manifest. What am I doing wrong?
Well, so the question, what am I doing wrong, will take you down the law of distraction.
Yes, so true.
What am I doing wrong will take you down the law of distraction, and you will never run out of things that you're doing wrong. Really, if you want to head down that road, you'll never, if that's what you're looking for, what am I doing wrong? You will be distracted, and we've all done it, sometimes for years and years, discovering what's wrong, and you'll never run out of things that are wrong.
Mm-hmm. Instead, what can I do differently? How can I upgrade? What can I?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
so eliminate that question.
Eliminate that question, and then secondly, ask, through this experience, which is the only thing that's real, what do I now know the truth of? What do I know now about myself? You are a creator of experience. What are you knowing about who you are through this experience with money? What more do you think you want to understand about yourself through this experience of money? Like, for an example, one of my clients was someone who she felt that, or she realized that she used money as a tool to give her impetus to move forward on something. For example, she's a highly creative person, but if, left on her own and things are totally wonderful and content, she just didn't feel like creating. Mm-hmm. But when she had the lack of money, it lit a fire under her. So it was one of the ways her soul used that tool of money to keep her going forward and to keep passion going. It's interesting how we think to ourselves, all I want is just, more money coming in. But really, we gotta really think about that, because first of all, we often put our happiness conditional on that money coming in. But we know that's not true, because look at the statistics on lottery winners, right? Mm-hmm. Afterwards they say it's a curse. And they're more broke within 5 years than they were before they won the lottery. Money isn't the answer. What you're going to be wanting to know is discovering more about who you are. You see, I came to understand that all roads lead to understanding two things about yourself. Who are you and how do you create? And if you can answer that question about the money, what is this showing me about who I am and how I create, and pull together a committee, call it your money committee, that helps you to understand more about who you are and how you create. And what is money or the energy of money? How is that being used to help assist you to understanding more about yourself and an experience you want? If you can answer that question, and your committee can help you to do that, of course, then you will have a whole different experience with money.
Mm-hmm. That was a beautiful response. Very expansive response. And, you know, someone asked an interesting question in here, Jean, and Mona asked, do you ever have times when you don't get the spiritual help you asked for?
Of course. All the time.
They're like,
all the time. Okay, so let's just think about that question. You know, sometimes sometimes we really have let's put it in the terms of a child, okay? When my kids were little, did they want dessert all the time? Yes. Did they want ice cream all the time? Yes. And given up, you know, to them, you know, that's all they would have asked for. But fortunately, they had their parents saying, okay, well, let's balance this with good food. Let's balance this with, you know, making sure that your body is getting what it needs first, right? Well, when it comes to things that we ask the universe, we really do ask for the ice cream all the time. We do. That's just who we are. We go, okay, universe, give me, you know, the $1 million, give me the big house, give me the, you know, and we want the ice cream all the time. But what if that is actually an interference in your soul's growth? Thank goodness that we've got our higher wisdom that says, you know what, that is actually going to work against you. In the long run, that's going to work against you. There's another client that I had that she lost $300,000, invested it with a financial advisor that ended up absconding that money and the money of many others, you know, just stole it. And she felt so betrayed, felt like, why is that, you know, why did that happen? And then 3 years later, because of having that money gone, she had to put together a whole new plan of what she was doing. She was getting ready to retire, but after that, nope. And she went back to work and she created a whole new business. Not only made a whole lot more than $300,000, but on top of that, her aunt died and gave her $300,000. But can you imagine her soul saying, listen, you're feeling like you want to retire and just fade away here. But no, there's so much more that you're here to do. This money is actually interfering with this. So, yeah, you'll get your money back. But right now, this is the way things have to be in order to get you to become who you are to be. Do you see how different that is?
Right.
So why is it, yeah, you know, so when we're asking for things, we are always asking for, like, give this to me with ease, give this, you know, just give me the cherry on top, give me the ice cream. There, you know, more in metaphor, I'm speaking metaphorically here, but, you know, we say that, but the reality is, and I want to make sure this is clear too, that we as incredibly, insatiably curious creators really don't want that. Think about it on a soul level. So here's the example, Carrie. I love to do puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. Mm-hmm. Now, the latest puzzle I put together was 4,000 pieces, and I'm really proud of that. I glued the back of it, and I have it actually hanging up on one of my walls because I'm really proud of that 4,000-piece puzzle. But now, you know that I love puzzles, so let's just say you want to get me a gift, and you send me a puzzle that's 50 pieces for ages 3 to 5. I would look at that. I would look at that and go, did you want me to send this to my grandkids? You know, why would I even bother? Really, seriously, I mean, I'm not dissing your gift, but why would I bother putting a 50-piece puzzle together? Well, here's our soul saying the same thing. Our soul has this incredible chance of a lifetime to be here on this planet in this dimension, and it says, give me the 4,000-piece puzzle because I want a challenge. I enjoy it. Don't give me that 50-piece puzzle. But yet, when we're here, we forget all about that, and we think, oh, yes, please, that's all I want. Just give it all to me. Mm-hmm. But we really don't want that, not from a soul level.
Good point.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. And I'm glad that I went to that question because I think that was important for you to share. And I want to make sure that we go to some callers too. So if you are ready for that, Jean, I'm going to take a few of these. There have been so many hands up from people patiently waiting. So are you ready?
Yes.
I think you're always ready. I think you are. Okay. First caller. Well, by the way, when I call on you, please give us your name and then just whatever question that you have for Jean. Okay, first caller, your area code is 416. 416.
Hurrah!
Oh my gosh, hi.
Hurrah, 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 hurrah. Believe it or not, ladies, we're standing in the beautiful Toronto sunshine at the same time you guys are wherever you're having to be. Before I ask my question, I have to express profound appreciation for Miss Jean because she just makes us all sound like it's so much fun.
Doesn't she?
Yes.
And that environment makes such a difference. This is Karen in Toronto, and tapping into one of the things you said earlier, that what we put out energetically is what we get back. I have decided that I desire autopilot income so that I can build my dreams, rather than I've got to heal my body, I've got to feel safe, I've got to pay my rent on time, etc. So if I'm working from this joyous place of autopilot income, you know, for my business, for my house, for all the other things, what should I choose to do next to hire the divine source I know is around me all the time to make that happen?
And just so that I'm clear, you said autopilot income. Is that correct?
Autopilot income, yes.
Yes. Okay, Karen. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine that boardroom that I was talking about. And I want you to hire for your autopilot income committee. I want you to hire all the specialists that you would do logically. You know, perhaps a spiritual financial consultant, a spiritual banker, a spiritual know my gifts so that I can give them to the world specialist. There's just whoever it is that you logically want to bring onto this committee. But what I will do for you, in addition to what you do, is I will look to see if there are some specialists that you might not have thought of. Like when the mob came in, you know, there might be some specialists that you need to hire in addition that are unusual. So let me just get in tune here for just a moment, and we'll see who comes in the door. Yes. Okay, beautiful. So you're going to crack up. And it fits in with what you were saying about right away, that you wanted to give a shout out about the levity that we have and the joy that we have and laughter that we have, because I want you to hire a spiritual dolphin.
Oh, wow.
Yay. A spiritual dolphin.
Okay.
A spiritual, yes, seriously, a spiritual dolphin, and the dolphin energy to bring in that lightness, the laughter, the fun, the fluidity, can you just, you know how dolphins love to play?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want you to do is on your committee, I want you to hire that spiritual dolphin to imbue your energy with the energy of that dolphin that is just having fun and is enjoying itself and is flowing. That's how dolphins swim, is they're just effortless in their flow. And they seem to laugh. They seem like they have a constant smile on their face, and even the sound that a dolphin makes is like a giggle. Mm-hmm. So on your committee, head of the table has to be your spiritual dolphin assisting you that whatever you're doing, you bring that energy with you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because feeling supported is a biggie for me. It's a biggie for me. So I love that. I love that energetic shift. That's phenomenal.
Okay, Karen. Oh, thank you for
so
the
much,
question.
ladies. You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Karen. Karen, if you
Carrie.
yes.
Hugs. We love you.
Oh, I love you too. And you know I love the dolphins, so I was all that resonated with me. I'm putting many spiritual dolphins on my committee, but they already are. But I'll add in one more. Okay, Karen, thank you, sweetie, and blessings to you. Okay. All right. I loved that. Jean, you don't know this, but I love the dolphins. So, okay.
Now I do.
Shocker. Okay, let me go to area code 954. 954.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Oh, I'm surprised. Yeah, hi. This is so great because it takes so much of the ponderous heaviness, the onerous, energy out of spirituality and just living.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
Thank you for saying that. I so appreciate that. That means so much to me that you said that. Thank you.
Well, yeah, it's getting back to the truth of it rather than all the imposed ideas and belief systems. So my question is kind of in two parts. If you have belief systems you might not even know about, say money, like you don't deserve it, or money, you still have those belief systems lingering in your unconscious. Does that impede the manifestation or the ability of the helpers to assist?
First of all, your name is?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Rosemary.
Hi, Rosemary.
Oh,
hi.
That is such a wonderful, wonderful question. And it actually speaks to what you first mentioned about when we become spiritual and we start reading all these books, oh my God, you start becoming a full-time job, don't you?
Mm-hmm. It's horrible.
You've got to,
so
okay, so I've got to meditate for an hour, and then I've got to do this, and then I've got to clear my karma, and then I've got blah, 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 and then I've still got these
balance your chakras
that are and don't forget to spin around 3 times.
Exactly.
But,
in the right direction.
Go ahead.
In the right direction.
In the right direction. Oh, let's not forget to do it right. Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. But what we're forgetting is who we really are. Now, who are you? You're a spiritual being having a human experience, right? We hear that.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't live that way. We don't live that way. We live as human beings, and occasionally we remember we're spiritual when we're meditating, when we're going to church, when we're, thinking good thoughts and doing our journaling or whatever, then we're spiritual. But the rest of the time, we feel like we're marooned here on earth and we've just got to figure it out. What if that's not true? What if who you really are is this incredibly wise spiritual being, immortal, that it has many, 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 many lifetimes, and that you actually know what you're doing? Oh my gosh. Let's just think about that for a minute. One day, as I'm journaling with my committee, I was dealing with the worthiness issue. And, we could call it belief systems about worthiness. We could call it all kinds of things. But that ubiquitous worthiness issue, oh, gosh, if I could just feel worthy then, And my guidance said, have you ever stopped to think about how much you've learned and how much you've grown because of not feeling worthy? So I actually started to think about that. And I have to tell you, I realized that, first of all, we're here in polarity. We're here in duality. There is value on both sides of the coin. Why do we think we only want to get to the one side of the coin where we feel worthy? That's the only place that has value? Contraire, there is just as much value from not feeling worthy. Ask yourself, what have I learned? What do I know about myself? What do I now know the truth of? When I asked myself that question, I realized I am who I am today. I am doing what I am doing today because of the unworthy thoughts that were driving it and giving me the impetus. I'm doing what I'm doing today because of that. So now when you think about these belief systems, we have this fear oh my gosh, I've got these belief systems. They're out to get me, and sooner or later they're going to sabotage me. Let's just think about that. What if you are this incredibly wise, immortal being and you actually know what you're doing? What if you have great purpose for those belief systems? Just let that one sink in for a minute. And go ahead and ask your second part of the question.
Well, the second question was more personal because, I'm coming to the end of these really heavy-duty karmic cycles, and my whole life needs a makeover. I don't know where to start. So I'm asking what guide or what helper would I call in just to organize and coordinate the whole thing and, help me, which it's like everything from the bottom up. Everything needs a makeover, a redo, a restructuring. So who do I call on? What would the guide be? How do I do this?
Well, Rosemary. So when I asked, because I hear the sincerity in your question, and I really believe that you believe all this, and what I'm hearing is that before you ever put your committee together, to just begin to question what you're thinking. That is the most powerful thing that we can do for ourselves, is to just question our thoughts. So before you put a committee together for that, I'm just asking, or your guidance is asking you to just question those thoughts. And I'm sure that you have. I'm sure you've done tons and tons of work on that. And they're asking you to, again, take a look at it. Just like when, I'll tell you what, I did years of stuff where trying to make myself worthy, Before, my guidance told me, wait a minute. Have you ever thought about how amazing feeling unworthy is and all that you've learned from it and how great it is and the value that you've received? Have you ever, thought about that? And that was shocking at first, but it's about when we, okay, so I just want you to just, see if you can really grasp the hugeness of this. When you understand that you are a spiritual being, you actually understand that, and you understand that you know what you're doing, and that you're here in duality to take full advantage of all of life, and accepting all of life. You don't see a good side and a bad side of the coin. You don't see that. You just see life and experience.
Yeah, but I've got to start. I want to start changing my experience and moving it in a different direction. But I mean, I know I've learned all these things just to, get compassionate. But
okay, but challenge some of those thoughts about a karmic remake over and where you've got to just remake over your whole life. Just kind of like pay attention and challenge some of those thoughts. Yeah, Carrie, I just feel like there's something that you have to say about this.
Well, I didn't want to talk over anybody. I'm just sitting here quietly. Yeah, I was just feeling you haven't done it wrong at all. So I don't think there's a need for a makeover. I think it's like really celebrating, wow, that was a really cool experience. Even though it kind of sucked, this or whatever, but that's part of the kaleidoscope of this journey that makes everything else sweeter. So all I was thinking was, you haven't done anything wrong, No,
I understand that. I just want to turn it around and start changing what I've got here, what I've created. It's time to create something new. And
I don't think it's a long, drawn-out process, I think it's just saying yes to it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if you take it a little bit more lightly, like have fun, like we were talking about, and just then some things will start flowing, and inspiration will start flowing, and creating this team will be fun. And I think a dolphin would help. I don't know. Dolphins always help me, but I don't know. That's my 2 cents, Jean.
Yeah, and I feel like that, like we're always having to look over our shoulder, feeling that we've got something that's going to nab us. There's a belief system. There's some karma. There's some mother issues, or father issues. There's something that's going to grab us that we have to work on ourselves about. And like I was joking about it, then you end up becoming a full-time job, fixing yourself, I don't know. I just kind of feel like one of the things that I say in a course that I have is the I am, it is. It's just that complete acceptance of life and just the deliciousness of duality, of polarity, of just understand, just acceptance of it all, that and knowing that you actually know what you're doing. You do. You know exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know for me, I may phrase it differently than Jean does, and I love her phrasing because, the heavenly staff and all of that. And Rosemary, for me, I always call in my joy angels and the dolphins and anybody that can assist me in making it fun so that I'm not so serious about overcoming struggle. And that's really worked well for me, for whatever that's worth. So,
but I will add one more thing, Carrie, and this is just the beauty of it. Is like perhaps that's something that you actually enjoy. I'm just throwing out different thoughts here. I enjoy putting together a 4,000-piece puzzle, and believe me, I struggled with it, and I loved it. So maybe
and you'd never find me sitting down doing a puzzle. So
no, that's not an option.
Pay me a lot to sit down. I don't think I could sit that long. So that's really, really interesting to bring up. We all have different things that bring us joy, and that's a really good point. So
yeah, and think of somebody that desires to climb Mount Everest. They are not going to be laughing and giggling and having dolphin energy as they're reaching the summit,
Right.
But that is something that brings them a transcendent joy and it's something they challenge themselves with. And so, you know, I'm just putting a thought out there that even struggling can have a joy. You know, it's just plain about accepting it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rosemary, how are you feeling with all of this back and forth here? What are you feeling?
I was just wanting a starting point, see if they had any advice as which area to start in.
The only starting point they had was to question even those thoughts that you have to start.
Like you're already in it? Is that what you mean? Like she's already in it. So it's not about starting fresh? Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, and well, no, I would say that so let's just you've said to yourself that I have to start this project or whatever. This project I've worked really hard. I'm going to start this project. I'm at this point now that I'm going to begin this project. And what guidance is asking is question whether you need to start that project, if that is even a project that you need to start. Not that you're in it already, just is that anything that you need to start? Maybe you should be going in a completely different direction. That's what they said. I don't know where that is, and this is certainly a lot for you to think about.
Interpret.
And yes.
Mm-hmm. So, Rosemary, I think that maybe just kind of, take that in and feel into that. And like she was saying, and then after you've kind of felt on that, then call in, a team to support you, and
or a team that even helps you to figure out is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Because,
a clarity team.
Yeah, there we go.
A team to provide clarity on the next steps. How about that?
Okay. Well, that was a lot of talking to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, I think it feels like there's so much headiness, that maybe too much thinking to me, but I don't know. That's just we all have a different interpretation and feeling, but that's mine. And I wouldn't think too hard on doing it right or wrong. I'd just call in some support, and whatever you're feeling guided to call on in each moment, there's no wrong way to do it because they're all there. So there you go, Rosemary. I hope from all of that there's something that you can take and have a beautiful experience from it.
Well, me too, but thank you both for your efforts anyway.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Blessings to you, Rosemary.
Thank you both.
You're welcome. Okay, I feel like I didn't do my job.
So here's the thing, Carrie. Everything that is being said, first of all, are like little seeds, and they plant a thought.
They germinate.
And it can, you never know what can bloom from that. So
absolutely.
I think it was absolutely perfect.
Everything is always perfect, right? Even when it seems not perfect in the moment. But, I love some of the ways that you have expanded the way that I look at things or feel things, or, you've brought up a lot of interesting ways to perceive the way we do any of this. Which is really great, I love the whole thing that we are just these creators of experience. And that way there's not this, there's not this huge pressure to do it right or wrong or good or bad. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, what do I want to experience, and what am I going to learn from this? And what have I taken from these experiences that is, what have I learned about myself? And
right.
one of the greatest takeaways I feel like I've taken in listening to you is really honoring the struggle and honoring the lack of worthiness and honoring the lack of money at times or the lack of this or, and not seeing those things as something to escape from, but to really see how that helped us evolve as a being and what it did for us and all the positive things that it brought from us. So that was a unique takeaway. I didn't know that, I would come away from this conversation with you with, I love when that happens. You have many layers to you, Jean. You have many layers.
Well, it's been quite an education for myself, for sure. And I'm still learning, and I'm still just wowed out by life and wowed out by, it always comes back to understanding that we are so much more powerful than we ever thought, that we actually know what we're doing, and yet everything out there tries to tell us the opposite. Everything out there tries to tell us that we have to earn our worthiness, that we have to fix ourselves. We've got to do something to get to a better place, right? We got to get to heaven. We got to earn that. We've got to get to nirvana, or we got to get to enlightenment, that there's always a better place that we have to get to. And the only purpose for this experience here is to be a proving ground where we can fix ourselves so we get to that better life. But what if all of that was a lie?
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, and I love the expansiveness of this conversation. And yes. And I love the way that you talked about, everybody just wants the ice cream. Just, let's call in these heavenly staff meetings and just bring on the ice cream, bring on the millions. And you brought up some really beautiful points about why sometimes we don't get we don't get ice cream every time. And it's beautiful.
Thank goodness.
Right. Yes. And even if it's beautiful.
And even if we did, or like, that's what we think we want, but we really don't. Our soul doesn't want that, just like my soul doesn't want the 50-piece puzzle. So bring it on. I came here on purpose. I want the challenge. It doesn't want the 50-piece puzzle.
Right. Well, I guess it's a kaleidoscope of experience, and we didn't come here just for the quote successful ones, where we made a lot of money, or we had that perfect relationship, or that's not it, is it? I mean,
no.
It's to experience everything. And, and so calling upon your heavenly staff, your helpers, it's going to be different all the time depending on what you feel you need support with. And I guess it sounds like be open to how that support comes.
Yes, and so getting back to the exclusive package that I have here, but we really got into some interesting, deep subjects, and I appreciate that so much that I was able to talk about those things, because they really are some things that kind of take your mind and go, what? What? And make you rethink the nature of your experience here, the nature of existence, right? But the place to start is with hiring the heavens, because that's where it started for me. It's fun, it's light, it gets your feet wet, and very subtly and in the background, a transformation is going to be occurring. And it will rock your world.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's going to support you with the divine orchestration, and realizing that that's always being set up, even when it feels like you need to start over or you're not on the right track. Things are getting put in place sometimes, for you to, that's what I've learned in my life. Like if it doesn't go as fast as I want, or if it doesn't happen right then, there are reasons for all that. And there's a lot of divine orchestration that is happening that I'm not able to see sometimes. And so,
right.
Yeah. Wow, Jean. Well, I'm grateful that I got to introduce you to this community. I know a lot of them clearly know you from some of the feedback I see in the webcast. And so I'm happy that we had this time together. And I hope that people who really want to, understand the law of grace, which I want to highlight that you mentioned today, this law of grace, to understand it more and to really understand how to manifest. They can do that with your beautiful package and the beautiful offer you've created. So, Jean, as we start to close things up for today, do you have a final message that you want to leave our audience with?
Well, when you give a gift to somebody, let's say you put great thought into buying a gift for a niece or a nephew, what you want to hear back is that they loved it. They use it every day. They just think it's amazing. And, they're using it so much, it's actually getting worn out. I mean, that would be the best news ever, right? Well, you've been given this gift of grace, this gift of hiring the heavens. You have immense support from the most expansive resource pool in the universe. This gift, how can you honor it? Use it. So immediately begin to hire away from the heavens for everything that you do in your life. Use it, use it, use it. That's how you can honor this gift.
Definitely. And you're worthy right now. You're worthy right now.
And even if you aren't, it doesn't matter. It's not even a question. It's like worthy, not worthy. I've come to understand it's not a question. It's not even a valid question.
Right.
It's kind of like, do you have to earn this? Do you have to be worthy of this next breath? You exist, therefore you get to breathe.
You are.
Period.
It is. Yeah. You don't have to wait for anything.
Yeah. It's not a valid question anymore.
Yes. Well, Jean, I love how you make even the deepest things playful and fun. And there's so many layers to what you have to share and offer. And I want to thank you for the gift of just kind of scratching the surface with us here today. And you've been wonderful. And there are a lot of people on the webcast who have been writing in, still writing in, who have really, really enjoyed this and really enjoyed you and are thanking you and sending you love.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. It has been a blast.
Wonderful. Okay, Jean, thank you. And to everyone who has joined us, we've reached the end of our time together with Jean Slatter. I want to thank you for the gift of your light, your presence, your time, your love today. If you've joined us by computer, many of you have, continue to send us your comments and feedback from today's show in the webcast comment box. We do love hearing from you. And this was a show that had some layers to it, so I would encourage you, listen again. If inspired, you will receive more insights each time you listen. I know many of you listen multiple times. So I am sending waves and waves of love and light and gratitude from my heart to yours. May you feel it, receive it, and offer it to those you encounter today or tonight, wherever you are in the world. And please consider gifting yourself with this opportunity to take the insights and the information shared here today a step or many steps further and get started with this self-study video course that is presented here. I want you to learn about the law of grace and really have fun with everything we've been talking about today. Okay, guys, and remember to join us in our Facebook group. Just type in Straight Talk for the Soul, and we would love to see you there. And until next time, please give yourself full permission to shine instead of shrink, express instead of suppress, and own that amazing, powerful glow of yours. I'll see you back here on this playground of light next time, everybody. Bye-bye.